It is now 7:01 p.m. I'd like to go ahead and start this meeting. I got a short chair today.
There's another one over there.
Anyway, the City Council of the City of Brookshire, Texas will hold a regular City Council meeting on September the 7th, 2023 at 7 o'clock p.m. in Brookshire City Hall located at 4029 5th Street for the purpose of considering the. Before we go ahead and start, we'd like to have a prayer and a prayer of allegiance.
Look, Mr. Wilkins came in just in time to say the prayer, Mayor.
Heavenly Father, here we are once again, bowed down here in our heart, giving thanks, Father, that you have allowed us to see a day that we'll never see again, and we're truly grateful. And I come boldly before your throne, Father, praying for this office up here, Father, that you will continue to bless them. Give them knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to lead your flock in the way that you would have them to lead it, Father. And I pray that you will continue to watch over them, Father. And at the end of the day, they will hear your voice saying, well done. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. Sorry I put you on the spot.
I say thank you.
You didn't put him on the spot.
Okay. It takes Miss Molina, could you call us to order?
Mayor Branch,
Present.
Alderman Neuendorf,
Present.
Alderman Taylor, Alderman McNally,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Hill,
Present, excuse me.
Alderman Branch.
Here.
Okay. Next agenda item we have is public comments. In accordance with Texas Open Meeting Act and Texas Government Code 551.007, City Council may not discuss or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. Each member of the public wishing to speak must sign in prior to the meeting, and it's limited to 3 minutes. The first person we have is Ms. Manuring Hall.
Good evening to everyone. I think everybody knows me. I'm Manuring Hall, and I used to be on City Council here a long time. I want to thank the City of Brookshire and Economic Development for the improvements of the city parks and playgrounds. We are thoroughly enjoying them early in the morning, the walk, the cement area. And I would like to also commend city personnel and public works for their quick response on problems that arise day to day. If I see a hole or something that's developing in the street and I call, it's immediately taken care of. And you have a great group of guys out there that's working for the city, and I appreciate them. Some areas of concern, I know we're coming up to budget this time, and I just want to get your consideration of them. And I did make copies for everyone that, so that you could see what we are thinking about. And I don't know the comprehensive plans that have been made prior to this meeting, and I have not been watching the internet meetings. I don't really like Zoom or those meetings, period. So I'll get in trouble for that. But anyway, we would like for your consideration the repavement of 4th Street from Stallneck to Waller Avenue in the upcoming budget workshops. The junk and abandoned cars along Depot Street from Waller Avenue to 359 in Baines. There are vacant lots with tall weeds and debris harboring rats and violating city ordinances. If you go Waller and then Depot, they're parking cars in the abandoned building and across the street, and weeds and everything is around them. Animal control, stray dogs roaming the streets, which pose a dangerous problem. I had a pit bull come and get between me and my door, and in fact, she just laid down like she was at home, but she wasn't aggressive. But Waller County finally came that afternoon. I called in the morning, I finally got somebody in the afternoon to come and get her off my porch. One concern thing for me is the street light outages and the ones that burn all day. As I'm touring or riding the streets, I see street lights still burning, and I know that's electricity bills to the city. I have addressed some. I know you can go online and enter the things, but I say somebody's getting paid to do this, and I should be bringing it to their attention. And the last one is our subdivision sign replacements. They were taken down, and I thought it was imminent that we were gonna get replacement signs, but we didn't. So we would like something, some of the areas where signs were is now fenced off. So I don't know if that's gonna be a concern, or if we're gonna be let back into the area to put the sign up at Kenny and he's now put up a wrought iron fence where the sign used to be. So these are some of the things that we are concerned about on 4th Street. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Next person is Michael Butler. I'm fine. How are you, ma'am?
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Rebecca Hughes. I'm with KW Commercial Texas School. I'm here on behalf of my client, Terramore Ltd. Terramore, and you may be familiar with her, Bonnie and Shelby Morley, own about 6.8 acres right there off of 1489 and 11th Street, right next to the Mount Zion Baptist Church. We wanted to first and foremost, thank you so much. We see what you're doing with the substandard and dilapidated properties. Y'all are certainly addressing those, and we see it. We've been working with her for a little over a year now, and we see the work that y'all are doing. We appreciate you, and thank you so much for that. While y'all are looking into substandard properties, we have a property located at 4809 11th Street in Brookshire, Texas. It's actually the property right to the east of ours. We would certainly consider it to fall within your ordinance of substandard. We have dilapidation of structures there. We have equine there as well that is not properly fenced in. There's concern there that we may see horses someday soon right there on 1489. They were previously allowed to use our fencing line in order to give their horses water, also to kind of secure that property line. Now that we have listed that property for sale, the horses are back on their side, and again, there is concern that they may roam out onto FM 1489, or gosh forbid, I-10. I apologize if this is wrinkled, but you can pass it around. This is my aerial footage that I've done. And the subject property that I'm referring to, that's 4809 11th Street. You can see on the top there, and again, it is to the east of Bonnie and Shelby Morley's property. With that said, 3 other properties that I was planning to come and discuss, y'all have already tackled, y'all have already mentioned it, and again, we appreciate you for that. Thank you for your efforts. That's all that I have today. I know that y'all are already tackling the storage units and storage of those, so I'll let you go about how you'd like to deal with that. But again, thank you for your time, and we really do appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have Ms. Ruth Rodriguez.
And I am Ruth Rodriguez. I'm addressing all City of Brookshire constituents. God bless Texas. And I am seeking a breakthrough for situations with no progress, and especially because of disagreements, deception, trickery amongst elected officials, and some are here, and contractors and city staff. James Gardner, Marie Mosley, Roberta Sage, Douglas Worthy, Debbie Zook, Beatrice Campion, Pelea's Excavation, Consolidated Communications. In my opinion, hostile players at the City of Brookshire. And all the pain y'all cause to animals, citizens, and loyal staff, y'all manifest the disease here and provide the cure by assaulting, bullying, hiring, firing, and all the while abandoning the cause of the disease. City of Brookshire, cease and desist. Stop resoluting until all previous grievances are fully addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, that's it. Anyone else, just in case? Okay. We'll move on to agenda item number 5. Consider and take action on considered agendas items listed under the consent agenda or considered routine and or generally enacted in one motion. The exception to the rule occurs when a council member requests one or more items removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and action.
Mayor Branch, I have some questions about the minutes from the special meeting.
I have questions about B, so I guess let's handle them separately.
Sure, go ahead. So I'm noticing under the new business, there are 2 items, discussion for the tax collector, and it's noting that the vote was 4 in favor and 1 against. And in my notes that I had taken, it was unanimous in favor for that. So was there somebody that voted against it? Is it item 6, new business?
6A.
6A.
I will have to go back and look at my notes, but if we want to make the correction, we can make the correction.
Okay.
Are items A and B, I thought that they were
Yes,
unanimous.
A and B both. I have them both as unanimous.
Okay.
It's just a typo.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So if we could correct those just to be 5 and 0.
Thank you for noticing.
Anything else, Mr. McNair?
That was it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
We'll have to vote on that item and then go to B.
I move that we would approve the minutes as corrected.
Second.
Mr. Hill,
4.
Ms. Branch,
4.
motion carries. And B, discussion and consider to post requests for proposal of banking services.
No, B is the plating requirement exemption.
Waiving.
Well, he said A and B.
It was A and B on the previous minutes that needed the correction to the vote. But B on today's agenda was the plotting requirement.
So on this one, while I'm in favor of the waiver to plating, Mr. Pruitt, if you can correct me, when we've done this in other instances, we've required a most up-to-date survey. And I don't see that mentioned in here that they have to resurvey the property and provide a recent survey.
Mm. Yes. Okay.
Well, I mean, can we vote subject to providing of a survey within the last 2020 to present? Okay, that would be my motion.
2020 to present.
Yes.
Second.
Hill. Mr. McAnally
4.
and Ms. Branch.
4.
Thank you. Motion carries. Agenda item number 6, New business, discuss and consider to accept contract services for general code for complete recodification of ordinance and housing online municipal code library.
You know, we just done this.
So recodification has not been done, to my knowledge, through Unicode for several years. And it has to be done at least every 5 years. General code also, to be hosting it on the web instead of Unicode, it offers completely searchable code, which is really good for transparency with people looking at things on their own. It offers an email option for people to be emailed every time there is a new code. It allows us to post ordinances within an hour of being sent over, which Unicode only posts once a year, and it's in September. So, we go, 9 months without any code posting, and so it's a better process.
And I don't think you're wrong. I think council approved for recodification. But I don't think
We
it was.
paid Olson and Olson and
A lot
a
of money.
recodification company a lot of money under
And I don't think that it was, the project was.
under
followed
the
through.
previous administration.
Yes, and I don't think it was followed through.
So one question I have, what is our cost when we add new ordinances to that? Does that fall under the annual maintenance?
It does.
Because just for council's understanding, we sent off some ordinances about 4 or 5 months ago, Mayor? And it was nearly $10,000 to add those new ordinances there versus.
Under Municode?
With Muni?
Under Municode.
And they also
Yeah.
only
Versus paying
updated-
$1,200 a year. So that's a huge savings to the taxpayer.
So I will say, in that instance, if he sent it off 4 months ago, Municode only physically updates your online portal once a year. So though, if we were to update them tomorrow, Yeah, it we're will be lagging. updated for almost a year later.
We're lagging
So
behind in what's available.
with general code, they have a policy that's part of your maintenance plan, which their maintenance plan is cheaper than Municode to begin with, but it is updated within an hour of you sending it. I mean, within reason.
The online
Right.
version.
The
They
online
still send
version.
out the print version supplements once a year, but
Okay.
the online's updated.
So what we've found is, there will be people who are looking up specific ordinances or codes, and they look it up, and they come in and they say, well, I've printed out this code, and we have to say, well,
Up to date.
council actually voted to amend this, and it hasn't been updated, no fault of ours. That's just the way that Municode works.
And it creates an issue with developers who
Sure.
come in and say, well, online it says your code is this.
Right.
And we know we've already passed a new code, and they're trying to argue that they should be grandfathered into the old code because it's not online. So I mean, it's just, at our state of the development, we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot if we don't go this direction. And it's still at the unit price to recodify this is still significantly cheaper than what it was to do it before. And that's not including what Olson and Olson got paid to verify that. And I would assume it's going to be easier for them since they can take the
Right.
last codification and then just from what's passed.
And I will
forward.
say there have been a lot of legislative changes too, that will make changes to, after this last session, that will make changes to, or that changes are automatic to what some of we have in our codes.
I
So
don't,
whenever I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, go right ahead.
So whenever they do make legislative changes that affect municipalities, it's automatically changed
They
through.
will find that when they recodify,
Okay,
yes. So what
okay.
they do is they take new and Justin, jump in if you need, they take legislative changes
Uh-huh.
and they measure it against what's currently in your code, and sometimes there are things that will override.
Uh-huh.
And they will identify that and let us know, hey, this is no longer relevant anymore because there's a new state law, there's a new federal law, and make those changes.
Are they automatically redacted, or does council have to take action to
No,
rescind
they
those?
will do it.
Okay.
Mhm.
So does that work that they send that to, I assume, y'all as administrators, and then y'all would
Mhm.
give Olson
Administratively.
Olson to-
Because, I mean, it naturally defaults to,
Right.
if there's a state
Right.
law.
State
it
law
naturally
We have to do
supersedes.
that,
Right.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
I
was my
don't have a
question.
problem with it. I didn't like the way that it was done the last time for a lot of money, but
And it got drug out for a long time, too. Okay.
I move to accept the contract for services with general code as
Sec-
presented.
Second.
Mr. McAnally
4.
and Ms. Branch.
4.
Next, we have item B, discuss and consider to accept contract for social media consulting services.
So in your packets, you will find a proposal from Miss Abby Ferguson. And I am proposing that the city enter in a year-long contract for social media and marketing consulting services with her. I've actually worked with her before. She's fantastic. But this was part of what I've previously talked with you guys about, unifying a message from the city, a communication and marketing plan. And I think one of the first ways that we can do that is through just clear, transparent communication through a unified social media platform with the city. So currently the city of Brookshire does not have a Facebook page. Our PD does and our economic development does, but our city does not. And so there are a lot of rules and laws that govern the way social media through governments are run, what you can delete, how that's managed, how it's archived. What you will find is most municipalities outsource that out to an independent contractor because of some of the restrictions with how that's handled with archiving and such. So I am making this proposal to council, but it has been agreed upon that this will be a cost share between our operating fund and EDC. That is something that EDC can fund. So it would be, we're proposing $2,200 a month, and that would be $1,100 operation from the city, $1,100 from EDC.
So I had a number of questions about this. Is this just a Facebook page? Would there be an Instagram,
No.
a Twitter
Yes.
presence
Correct.
as well?
Yes.
I mean, what about some of these crazy ones like what's Trump's
So-
new one, Truth Social, and some of these other ones?
No, this is only for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I'm not sure if you guys are up to date, but it's actually illegal right now in the state of Texas for governments to engage in TikTok.
Right.
So we will not be doing TikTok.
What about
this-
X?
Yes, she will. Well, Twitter, X. I mean, I still call
Okay.
it Twitter, but yes. And I'm not a Twitter person, so.
I
but
don't tweet either.
Right,
it's
so
okay.
she does do all three, and one of the great things that is she's able to interface all three of them together so that when she posts to one, it automatically hits
Right.
all three, but then it
Great speed.
also performs a landing spot on our website so that there will be a box at the bottom of our website. So if somebody doesn't have social media, they can still get the same information available by visiting our website. It's a direct reflection.
So will she have access to our website to be able to do things like update the calendar
So
on the website?
she doesn't do that,
Edit
but
it.
we are getting a new website, and so it will become a lot more user-friendly for internal staff to do things like the calendar, update documents, and things of that such.
What about news releases, news articles, job postings? So she won't do that. That will still be maintained in-house as part of our
In-house.
web.
You're looking at the updaters.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I just
A lot of
wasn't sure.
those-
I'm just
Right.
trying to clarify what exactly
Right.
this
A
contract
lot
would
of
cover.
those sources on the website, though, are also embedded links, and so anytime that she posts something to social media, it'll just automatically be updated on the website.
Yes.
They're embedded through hyperlinks.
Yeah, and there's a way that, I mean, that's not my forte, but I can tell you Amanda is correct. There is a way that they set up government. There's a whole realm out there specifically designated to just specific government social media because we are so governed on how we can post, like redactions, hiding, blocking, deleting. It's very, very specific when it comes to government. So there's a whole realm. In fact, there's a whole organization, government social media organization, that goes over that, and she's fully aware of all of the stipulations that are required, and that's why it becomes very hard for cities to just go hire just anybody because it is so restricted. But she is very familiar with all of the legalities of how that works. But when she does post, there are specific things that will automatically be embedded to our website and information sharing back and forth. She's also extremely cognizant of her reply time in getting, if a resident messages us through Facebook, being very responsible in replying back. And if she doesn't know the answer, reaching out, whether it be to council or to staff, I'd like an answer. She is very responsible with getting the correct information in a timely fashion.
And on this Facebook page, people could comment?
Well, they can, but I will tell you that it is highly recommended on government social media. It's kind of a new thing to turn off commenting, and you'll see a lot of governmental agencies that have started to turn off commenting. It just, it's
Us.
kind of
I can tell you that people's gonna comment on
Sure.
there that doesn't even live in the city
Right.
of Brookshire.
right.
And it's gonna pose a problem.
And so that's something and Justin, I've actually worked with Justin before on drafting a contract, and that's something that we can spell out in terms of, what is our social media policy? What does it look like? Do we want to turn off comment? Do we want to engage? I mean, that's up to us that we get to dictate all that, and we will.
And this is, Justin, this is a project we can just hire from a recommendation, does not require an RFP? Okay. Okay.
You mentioned there's currently PD has a page.
They do.
Is there going to be a policy drafted as far as, because I assume there's one or two people over there that are
Yes.
posting. So is there going to be an internal policy
There
to
will be an
address
internal
what can and
policy,
cannot be
and
posted?
what I actually recommend is, because there are so many stipulations with administrators, moderators, editors on these pages, that our social media person has administrative capabilities on those pages. So if, for instance, somebody leaves the city, we want to still be able to have access to, if an employee is managing a PD page and that employee leaves, we don't want to be left without access.
This is a good question. Why would we let someone else moderate PD and or whatever else page y'all said it was, when we're hiring this person? Couldn't this person merge it all together?
Ideally, yes. Now, I will say a lot of cities do have independent PD pages.
Oh, you said EDC.
Yes, so, and that is something that I think we could definitely merge EDC with the city. That's the smart
way
thing to
that-
do.
Correct me if I'm wrong, not that I go on. Right now, it's the website that you do EDC, you can see EDC on one part, and then you can see the city on the other part, but
City side, correct.
but you can hit the link and it will take you either place,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I would personally recommend that the PD keep their independent PD page, because they have a different realm of information that they're pushing out from the city. It's good to link them and repost off of each other, but EDC would definitely be merged with the city. So that would leave the city with two pages, PD and just the city of Brookshire.
I would like to say this, Miss Vicky has done a wonderful job with the EDC, and
Yes.
but just my personal opinion.
No, and she would definitely still be involved, and I think that, we're not pushing her out of doing the position. I think it would probably alleviate some ongoing.
Something off of her plate.
Right, for her.
Well, this will tie in, especially for the community members who are here tonight that weren't here in some of the last meetings. This will tie in with Pixel, which is going to be our Nixel,
Nixel.
excuse me. Our new communication platform that
Yes.
we're going to try to get citizens linked up
Correct.
to. So if we have urgent posts that need to be made to make citizens aware, emergency evacuations, all that kind of fun stuff. So this will kind of link in with that.
Correct.
So it's kind of,
And we realize that that's a shortfall of ours, is outward communication with the community. So this is really kind of a progressive plan of bridging what that communication gap is with the public, and getting them expeditious information out when it needs to go out.
I think it would also end the bullying, which sometimes when an elected official attempts to communicate through email, it can come across in a negative way and not on purpose, and not saying that people are bad. But thank you for whomever is promoting this unified way of communicating with constituents. Because it has caused a lot of pain and grief, and I'm not exaggerating, and I hope it ends. I hope the human error part of communicating with my elected officials ceases from being a pain in the ass for me. Because it's very painful, I've been here all my life, and it's just not okay. So thank you, let's continue that project, please, and perfect it, so that we can participate in a legal civil manner. I know we're all good people in Brookshire. We're not gonna go off just because we want to. So I guess I'm speaking for other citizens too. We appreciate an opportunity to be seen as the grown people that we are and educated people, and we love our city. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
If there's no other discussion, I would move that we accept the contract for Abby Ferguson for the gold package, $2,200 per month.
Second.
Mr. Hill, your vote.
4.
Ms. Branch.
4.
Harris.
He's gonna get it.
Next agenda item is number 7, budget workshop for 2023 through 2024 placement.
Okay. I'm gonna ask y'all to be very patient with me on this. I have given each of you a packet, and this is the most current financial statement that was run as of August 31st. And I will just walk you through a couple of the challenges that I'm working with right now in the budget, so hopefully this explains kind of where we are. If you look at the first sheet, you'll see property taxes, and if you look at year-to-date actual, we have 4 lines of unaccounted income for the city. Does that mean that we've not incurred income? No, we have. But from all measures that I can account for, our staff has not been inputting the revenue received for the city. So as you can imagine, during budget, that's a problem. So this whole first page, as you go down through taxes, sales tax, and property taxes, if we're planning a budget based on what our staff is inputting into our financial system, we have 0 revenue. And if I'm being completely accurate, we have negative $223,000 in revenue. So I am starting my 4th week this week, and I still do not have full access to our financial system. I still do not have full access to our bank account. I have no idea who is receiving our tax collections, our franchise collections. I've asked on several times. I have no idea how many people have subscribed to trash service in the city. So as you can imagine, this has made budgeting very difficult. I've taken it upon myself to enter the entire budget manually into an Excel spreadsheet, so I can go through this with you and give you kind of a global view of where I think we have some expenses that we're going to need to address in the coming year, as well as some places that I think we can make some cuts and we can make things a little bit more budget friendly for the city. So I would like
When does FundView get installed?
we're onboarding with them right now, but to be quite honest,
Well, if you input this garbage, it's still garbage. I
they're
get
gonna
that. I
migrate
just-
everything that's
Garbage in,
currently
garbage
in
out.
Encode to FundView. And if there's nothing there to migrate, there's nothing there to migrate.
Get
So
that.
I have actually put in requests with the comptrollers for a year's worth of sales tax. Obviously, our property tax we collect, and then thank you to each of you who approved it last month or last meeting. ASW will start collecting our property taxes, and they will be depositing those correctly into our bank account and sending us monthly reports. So on the property taxes, one thing I was able to find out is that if you write a check to the city of Brookshire for your property taxes, it's deposited into an independent tax account. The account is labeled tax. The city of Brookshire also, a couple of years ago, agreed to start allowing credit card payments for your taxes. However, when they negotiated that contract for merchant services, there's a user fee, as you all know, with using a credit card, and it's almost 4%.
Ooh, that's high.
So what's happening with us is that people are paying their property taxes with a credit card. We are paying the 4% merchant fee, and that's being deposited and taken out of a secondary account. So all of that is gonna have to be renegotiated when we as you saw, we went out to RFP for banking services. All of that will be renegotiated. The user fee should, especially for something like property taxes, should be passed on to the user, not the recipient, because you can assume that whatever amount we collect in property taxes that's paid with a credit or debit card, we're paying, go ahead and just take 4% off the top of that for processing fees.
It could be an average of a $200 fee.
Correct. So, I don't have an actual balanced budget for you tonight because I don't know what our revenue is. But I can assure you that I'm diligently working on it, and I will get as accurate to that as I can by next week when we have a budget hearing. I am happy to report that our tax rate will be reduced from 65 cents down to 59 cents. So last year, our tax rate was 65 cents. I don't know how. Probably should have been lower.
Because we didn't get to approve the budget
Because-
last
Didn't
year.
get to
Right.
approve it.
Correct. So, we had, appraisal values did go up, which can help and hurt in the same breath. But with that, what has happened is it has increased our taxable value, which has allowed us to reduce our tax rate. So this is the first time in several years that we are able to get the tax rate below 60 cents. So we're going to be sitting at 59 and some change, which I think is a healthy place for us.
Ms. Ward? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. McAnally.
I was just saying, Ms. Ward, we have citizens here in the audience, and I think it's worthwhile to repeat that again and see if we can get some citizen response for a decrease in taxes.
Yeah.
Before you do that, there's a miscommunication or maybe not knowing. The city gets blamed for citizens' taxes going up. And what citizens don't realize, it's not
It's not the city.
council
No.
that is
Correct.
raising your taxes. It's the lovely appraisal
Correct.
district to Waller County that when your appraisal comes in, that's what
Correct.
our
Yes.
is.
So when the
based
city
off of.
approves taxes, we get numbers from the appraisal district, and a number is calculated based on that appraised value. The state actually sends us what is called a no new revenue rate. It's a rate that is adjusted based on if the city were to collect the same amount of tax dollars that it did the previous year, they give us a rate for what that is. In 2019, Senate Bill 2 changed that to where a city can only collect 3.5% increase over that no new revenue rate. Prior to that, it was 8%. 2019, that changed to 3.5%. So you can only do a 3.5% raise from the no new revenue rate, which is called the voter approval rate. So it's very typical that most cities just take the voter approval rate. And that's what Brookshire has been doing, which is fair. But last year, it wasn't calculated correctly internally, or it just wasn't calculated at all. So we approved a tax rate that probably didn't need to be a tax rate that was approved. So I will say, it's exciting that this is the first year in many years the city of Brookshire will have a tax rate below 60 cents. Yes.
Yay.
What happened to me in the last taxing season, okay, the taxes came out, and I was put on an installment plan, okay? And I went down, I paid. Then when the year changed, I went to pay for my installment, and I had the check written out. He said, oh, no, that's not right, Ms. Hall, where did you get those numbers from? I said, you sent them to me. From the time they issued the statement in October, November, they went up $21,000, and they still have not explained to me how they reached $21,000 increase in my taxes and made my final installment go up. Nobody told me either.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even think the city is aware of what's going on.
No.
So
Right.
the payment plan,
Taxes, I had to pay it. They say, well, you don't pay it, then you're going to incur
Penalties. Mm-hmm.
So I had back home,
Did you protest your taxes at all?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I don't understand the process for it, and I have, well, now because I have listened to people that have protested their taxes. You go down and you give what you think, and then nothing happens. So I want to be prepared when I do a protest to understand the process.
Mhm.
You know, people tell you, well, I'll tell you exactly what to say. I want to know what to say,
Mhm.
because I don't want to go down and stand in front of the board
Sure.
and explain everything, and they just say, thank you. Nothing happens.
And I do know that there are law firms out there that will represent clients, and a cost is only associated with representing clients on property tax protest if you actually win the protest. Because statewide, the percentage of those who actually win the protest is pretty small. But there are legal firms that do represent people, and there's no cost unless you win the protest, and then it's a percentage of what that is. But I think, were you gonna say something? I'm not.
The payment plan you entered into, was that with the city of Brookshire or with Waller County? Both.
I pay an installment with the county, and then I come in here, and then I pay another installment.
So before you leave, would
Let's
you
see.
make sure Ms. Ward has your information?
Yes.
Because I'd like to figure out from our side how we enter into.
Come back and charge me $21.
No. What I'm,
For all of us, Mr. Hill, for all of us.
Miss Rodriguez, you're talking out of turn. Let me finish over here, please.
I need to interrupt you because what you're doing is you're favoring one citizen when we all need to know how to pay our taxes properly.
You don't even know what I'm about to say.
You already said you were gonna get her name to give it to this lady.
If it'd make you feel better, Ms. Rodriguez, give Ms. Ward your name also.
She's Miss Hall. I would like to know from our side what agreement it was that you entered into and how we as a city give you an agreement and then come back later and change that is what I'm trying to find out. Right, and I'm good with that,
Yes.
but it's concerning to me that you
It
went to pay that
changed.
last installment and they went,
All
oh,
of a sudden it
now it's
changed.
changed.
Yeah,
Because
not-
that doesn't sound right to me at all. And so I'd like to know. Understand? And we're not trying to,
No.
Yeah.
We want to figure out, was
Where
that a
the
mistake on
disconnect
our
is.
end, or like we want to No, we won't. But did we misspeak? When did we misprint? Like, we need to find. This might have happened to other people that are not saying anything, and we want to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Now, I will tell you that last month we came to council and asked council to approve going to a contract assessor collector company, that this is all they do. Because technically, you have to have a certified assessor collector to actually be able to even assess taxes and then make the collections, and we don't. So we'll be using a contract company, and we're hoping it's a much smoother process going forward, because they are knowledgeable in issues like this and should be able to answer your questions and make sure that what you're paying is accurate.
It's to me, it's just hard to make your installment payments. Then you get a letter from San Antonio saying, oh, you're behind.
Mm-hmm.
When you know that you are paying on time on the installment payments. So it's like
I'm saying somebody not entering it.
collecting what?
that's what we need
She's
to
thinking
know.
that that's what we need to find out who was not
Was
entering
it
her
the
payments and hold
county
them
that
accountable.
told you the 21,000, or was it the city that,
The county told me $21,000.
well,
They told me to come to the city and see if they go up, but y'all never did go up, so I didn't say anything because I didn't have an extra $21,000
Yeah.
more to pay to the city.
Me neither.
No, we'll definitely look.
I don't either.
Sure.
And I can show you
Okay.
what
We'll look into it. We will. So back to budget. I will go through a couple of highlights for budgeting purposes. One of the deficiencies that I have found that you will see reflected in here is in two different departments, in PD and in Public Works. We've had some issues that I'm trying to go through old paperwork and processes and protocols, but we have extremely gone over on our fuel charges, and I'm not sure why, But I will tell you that we have become extremely lackadaisical in the way that we administer fuel to our police officers and to our public works. And that's not saying that for the majority of them are not doing it correctly, but there's no accountability. There is also no safety measures that somebody cannot just pull up and utilize our services and our fuel. So as you will see in PD, we are over budget by a little over $25,000, and in Public Works, we're over significantly as well.
And I'd like to just bring your attention, Ms. Ward, that we didn't change
Right,
gas
we didn't.
tax. And we might find that we're not really over, because there's still a question about when Colorado County sold out to the new company. This bill that the mayor has tried several times to have them come in with it. And there used to be a lock on PDs. I don't know what would have changed.
Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't.
It's
And
supposed to be
I
all
can-
the time.
So I can tell you I have done a significant amount of research, and I will tell you that what you're seeing right now in here, this is what has been entered into the system year to date, and I have right here a bill of $53,000 outstanding to Colorado County Oil, and I'm having to
They can't
literally, they cannot answer it. The fill rates are not proportionate. I have a hard time believing that every time they come and fill, they're actually filling up 1,900 gallons every single time. That's not how that works. So I have looked at some additional safeguards for the city. In case you didn't know, we actually don't own our fuel tanks. So that's a secondary issue. If we owned our fuel tanks, then we would be able to put some of these safety measures on there. They do make scales that you put in the bottom of fuel tanks. So we would be able to identify one person within the city who orders and brokers fuel services for the city. So one of the recommendations that I will be making in the budget is that we outright purchase our own fuel tanks for PD and for Public Works. Public Works, we actually have 3. So we have unleaded, we have red diesel, and then we have clean diesel. But I will be making the recommendation to purchase our own fuel tanks. That way we're able to put our own scales in the bottom, utilize an internal employee that they're Bluetooth read. Whenever those, let's take PD for instance, PD gets low on the fuel tank, it automatically notifies an internal staff member. That staff member has a list of 3 fuel services in the area, and in case you didn't know, we have a fuel service provider that is 1 block from City Hall. We also have a couple of others that have shown interest. That person can contact out and say, City of Brookshire Police Department is in need of fuel. We have 100 gallons left. What is your going rate today? And we can broker those fuel costs, because we might have somebody who has 1,000 gallons on a truck that didn't get used at a plant that can give it to us for $2.50 a gallon to get it off their truck, versus us paying $4.90. That's what we're paying right now. So those are measures that I want to address with council, and costs that, I think are responsible investments that in the long run will save us money. But also with the new fuel systems, we would go to, it's called a card correct system. So every police officer would get a card.
Okay, I was gonna ask that.
They go up to
There's
the
a fob
tank.
system.
Correct. They fob it. They have to put in their PIN associated with their badge number,
Along with the vehicle number and the mileage.
the mileage, and if the last time they filled up, they were at 45,000 miles, and they're wanting it, we can also temper it to where, we're only we know what the gas tank size is of each vehicle. So if they try to fill up 100 gallons and they don't have they're not, approved for 100 gallons, the
Right.
pump automatically shuts off. But everything is Bluetooth run, so it reports back to our isolated staff member who's in charge of all fuel services, and they're able to run a roster so that we truly can match up our fuel service usage with the bills that we're getting.
We spoke about this in a city council meeting, of course, before y'all came. These people that's signing the delivery tickets, the delivery ticket is not even a clear cut explanation, and they're just signing their
And
name.
to be honest, it's an estimate of gallons
Right.
ordered.
And that hasn't worked for me, and I'm pretty sure it hasn't worked for the rest of the council.
Right.
And it needs to be corrected that
Immediately.
just any Sally Sue or Blow Joe doesn't get to sign
Correct.
the ticket. And if the ticket is not properly submitted,
Mm-hmm.
that there's no payment.
So, my concern, do we know how up-to-date these figures actually are?
No,
Like,
Absolutely
are we
not.
talking 6 months behind? Are we talking?
I have no
No idea.
idea.
So, just for council's edification, we pay an employee full-time
Correct,
to be entering this stuff.
correct,
We also pay an outside contractor to be entering this stuff.
correct.
And we have no clue at the end of a budget year.
What has been spent
has
and
been
what has been
spent, what's
revenue, and to curtail into that conversation, I have a stack of invoices right here that I just received today on my desk, and I have separated them between current invoices and invoices that are past due, and I have a stack of past due invoices in the amount of $89,000. Past due.
Does
And
that
some-
not include the $100-and-something thousand insurance bill that we approved a few meetings ago?
No.
And
So when I say there's,
huge
it's gonna get
disconnect.
harder before it gets easier, it's gonna get harder before it gets easier because every day is a new story. So, again, I have a stack of bills past due for the city, and let me just say, while I'm here, the one thing I do not want anybody to say is that the city of Brookshire does not pay their bills, because we are financially able and we are financially capable. To my knowledge, everybody that we have employed here at the city of Brookshire is an adult, and we should be paying our bills accordingly. So I assure you with my trust that these past due bills will be paid, but there will be some disciplinary measures taken with staff as to why I'm having to come to council with a financial statement that is not accurate. It reflects us having zero revenue. And really, all that's happening here is that we're continuing to enable bad behavior, and it's stressing the employees that we do have that are doing their jobs 10 times harder, because we're having to task each of us and additional employees with more things that have to be done to catch up.
As
But-
we discover them.
But these invoices will be paid, and I can assure you that when the new budget year starts in October, we will have a new purchasing policy in place. Daryl shouldn't be getting invoices on his desk. I shouldn't be getting invoices on my desk saying that services are gonna be cut off because we are $30,000 past due on invoices from April. And that's where we're at right now. And it's nothing but just a lack of due diligence on their part of doing the job that we're paying them to do.
Ask you a question about that, because I kind of called earlier about staff who, I can't remember where I worded it, but for so long now, this has been going on, from what I'm hearing, because I don't come here and monitor anything. But when I'm listening, this has been going on for so long, the invoices issue has come up like last year, and city council assured people that, in my view, they assured us that everything was taken care of. So, I mean, basically, this is a betrayal of trust to us, the citizens. So if you're gonna reprimand anyone, if the reprimand may not necessarily be for people who are hired to do a job, if they're not, if they've gone this long.
Ms. Rodriguez, are you suggesting that us as council,
I'm asking a question, trying to get the.
Well, I will say this. In every single meeting since I've been elected, I have called out invoices in every single meeting that were wrong. Every single one. It's rare that I don't. So to try to put it on this council that we're not trying to do our due diligence and we're not trying to get this stuff correct is improper. It's not our fault. There's city staff that have been allowed to do stuff for years. Part of the reason we have hired Ms. Ward as a city administrator, the mayor's part-time. He doesn't have all day to sit up here and babysit people. And I'm not suggesting that Ms. Ward should, but we need a consistent presence in that office that knows the laws, that knows the new procedures that need to be put in place. Let me finish. There's stuff that's going on that it seems like every single day we're pulling another layer from that onion of stuff that we just weren't aware of because staff has not brought it to our attention. I can tell you right now, these people sitting beside me, we are not afraid to call out, listen, let me finish. We're not afraid to call out what's been brought to our attention. That's what I'm trying to tell you, Ms. Rodriguez. In the last meeting, no, in the last meeting, there was a bill for $100-something for insurance that hasn't been paid in a whole year. It's never been presented to us.
How is it our fault, Ms. Rodriguez?
Okay.
Well, just
Well, and I-
explain to us how it's
Ms. Rodriguez,
our fault.
I can tell you in terms of the insurance bill, the very first day that I was here, I was presented with the insurance bill from an employee and it had past due on it. Because of my experience in dealing with the Texas Municipal League and the insurance process, I looked at the bill and I instantly notified Ms. Molina, this is not right. It's missing a sheet of paper. It is missing a sheet of paper, which is the audit report. The audit report is the report that is filled out by city staff that verifies what it is that we're paying insurance on. So it was kind of a matter of grab and tackle. So Erica took the lead on that. Once I told her, hey, this is what you need to ask for. This is how you need to ask for it. She was able to tackle that. We took an insurance bill that was $100,000 down to $20,000. We were paying liability insurance for 22 police vehicles that the city of Brookshire has not owned for 7 years. We were paying liability insurance for 39 council members. There are only 5 people who sit up here. And I will say that is not the council that sits up here is not at fault for that, because the employee that was in charge of managing that never administered that bill to anybody to look at or to pay. It was due August of 2022. We were in August of 2023. So we're paying a bill for 22 that is a year late, and then 2 weeks later we're going to be paying a bill for 23 that will cover us for the next year. We had police vehicles that were out on the streets that were not covered by liability insurance. That is not a fault of anybody who is sitting up here on council, because they were never told by the people who were in charge of monitoring and administering the insurance for those vehicles. So just to clarify,
I understand you believe what you believe, but I also am not disagreeing with you. I just think differently. And I think even if I sit in my home and when my husband was alive, I didn't sit there in a vacuum. If I was paying bills or not paying bills, eventually, hey, did you pay this bill? No, I didn't. Okay, well, let's discuss it. So how is it that you all, not you, all of you, but in general, people work together for at least the last 10 years, and you come on the job new, and you're telling me you're paying for stuff for 39 people who don't even work here? I mean, I'm not quoting you exactly, but essentially, money's being paid out for things that shouldn't be paid, and there's things that need to be paid and not be paid. How did that happen? That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking. It's a rhetorical question.
Right.
I'm not.
I'll give you
Well,
one
I-
example.
I have to ask the question out loud.
I sat in those chairs many a meetings and watched council members rip open their packet at the beginning of a meeting, never looking at anything, and just voted to approve stuff. So you're critical of us. You're critical of us. Well, then you stop as well. But until now, you've not really had a lot of people that are willing to sit here and look at it. Ms. Hall.
I just have a question. Okay, so this is budget workshop for 2023, 2024. Okay, when you have someone say something about the budget hearing, okay, does the public get a copy of, is that what we pass out the packets?
The budget will be posted, the proposed budget will be posted online, and you can come get a copy here at City Hall as well. Mhm. Yes, it will be posted next week, as soon as Ms. Ward finishes with it.
But I can truthfully say with council, okay, council is elected, and they do their best to serve and protect black police. But each of them have their own jobs. They come to the meetings, and they try to understand. But if you don't get the packet in time to go over it and really look at what line items are
which was one of the things that we worked really hard to correct in the last 6 months.
Yes. That's one thing that needs to be done. But I understand each of you have your own lives. You come and you're here for a meeting time, and you don't always get a chance to do what you really know you need to be done in your defense. I understand. I've sat there and I've listened to you. And I do commend that we haven't been driven into bankruptcy yet. That, you have been able to maintain some level of existence. But now I understand why we have a city administrator. I understand why we have changes.
Yep.
Because things have to be run on a more professional
Correct.
level.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have to have somebody that's current and know what's going on out there in the world. You can see, just looking at Katie, you have somebody that's on top of everything. If there is no oversight in the office, no one knows what's going on.
Well, and one of the best ways to explain it is my position is basically kind of being the CEO of the day-to-day operations of the city. It's not council's job and it's not the mayor's job to have to be responsible for personnel issues and, you know, just daily things that go on with the city. Their job is much larger than that. It's creating the vision and the strategic plan and the comprehensive plan and moving the city forward based on the principles of the day-to-day operations of a city. So having my position here stabilizes the in that technically every 2 years your administration can change. So every 2 years you could get somebody with a different agenda coming in. And perhaps that's what's happened in the past, is that agendas have changed too frequently and we've lost focus of what's truly important for Brookshire. So having somebody who is here in the day-to-day is able to stabilize and neutralize the plan and the vision for the city, we can keep things going and we can keep things rolling, that when administrations do change, we don't lose vision.
Right.
Correct. Like
Right.
they're correct. You know, it neutralizes the day-to-day operations and we don't lose that going forward. So I don't want to harp too much on what's happened in the past because we can't change it. But what I can do is we can learn from what's happened in the past and we can make those changes going forward. And that's why I say I can tell y'all, I can give you my word that these invoices will be paid. It's going to be a process. But the one thing that I can tell you in a year we'll look back on, and that's that nobody will be able to say that the city of Brookshire is late paying anything, because that is one of the things that I personally am taking on as a project, is cleaning up the policy and the purchasing of the city and making sure that we're in good financial standing. And we are financially healthy. Let me just reinforce the community. Right.
I understand your feelings. I've sat there.
Right.
I've listened to it.
And it's hard. You know, it's not fun to come to council and say, we've got a real problem, but if I've said it once, I've said it again. The city of Brookshire didn't hire me to tell you what you want me to tell you. They hired me to tell you what I need to tell you. And at some point, we have to rip the Band-Aid off, deal with the injury, and move on. And that's what we're doing. Now it might be painful for the next, 3 to 6 months, but understand that you have my word that I'm 100% doing what is best for the city of Brookshire and for our health going forward.
And like Ms. Rodriguez said earlier, we're all grown people. If I pay Mr. Pruitt to be my city attorney and draft up a resolution, is it my job to call Mr. Pruitt every day and ask him, has he drafted my, nobody here, you're getting paid to do a job. And if I have to ask you, are you doing your job? Did you pay the water bill? Then what? I might as well do that job instead of getting paid $92.35 a month. I might as well quit council and go over there, and I know how to pay bills on time. So
So
Ms.
a couple
Ward?
of areas I want to, go ahead before
I can also tell you, in looking at this, the numbers that are actually in the system for the budget are not correct.
Yes, I will mention that in my spreadsheet, and I will eventually share this with each of you. I'll email it out to you. I made 3 columns. I put the 22-23 past
Right.
budget, And then I actually took the 22-23 actually entered budget, and there is quite a variance between the adopted budget and the entered budget. And then I'm going in and actually entering, as of August, the year-to-date actuals, and then there will be a line for COLA, which is cost of living adjustment. So that cost of living goes to salaries and any sort of contracts that might have an inflation adjustment. Right now, I have proposed a cost of living adjustment for our administrative positions at 3% and for police department 2%. And the only reason that there is a difference between the police department and the administrative positions is because last year, police department received a COLA and administrative positions received no COLA. So that's basically just to level out what some of those pay grades look like. Specifically for police, I have gone in and I have started crafting a whole new pay scale for police department, because right now we've basically been taking a dart and throwing it at a wall of what we pay people. Council approved incentive pay, but unfortunately, since council approved incentive pay, we've never paid incentive pay.
And there was a reason for that. but
Yeah.
We'll
Right,
discuss
correct.
that.
There was. And so I am recrafting.
Sort of happy we didn't.
I'm recrafting a pay scale for police department, and I will say that in police, in previous years, we had only budgeted to fund 11 positions. But where we fell short on that budgeting is that is not assuming that we would fill. Our department actually has an opening of 22 police positions. So how are we ever supposed to get fully staffed in a department if we don't budget for it? So I have gone in and made measures to, on an average, increase the average base pay of our police officers that we're bringing in, but to work to fully fund our police department this year. With that, a secondary request item that I'll be asking is, we've been having conversations about police vehicles. Right now, as of today, out of our entire fleet, we only have 3 operational police vehicles. We did vote at the last meeting to send 7 to auction, but since then, 3 have become unoperational.
3 more?
Yeah, so we only have 3, and really only 2 of those are usable because one of them is not equipped with camera, cage, the security features. So that is going to be
These
an
are
issue.
ones that were not on, like, I mean, I know that we were presented a list at the last meeting, and then we
To
started
be
going
honest,
through and seeing.
I don't know. I just know that whatever maintenance plan we've been using up to this point is not working because
Clearly.
we're spending an enormous amount of maintenance. Our vehicles are going in and they're coming out and they're not being fixed.
Right.
And some of these vehicles are 2021, 2019 vehicles. There's no reason why they should not. So I have explored other options for maintenance, getting on a very meticulous maintenance plan with a certified maintenance provider that can put our vehicles back into shape. And I'm also working with several different people right now at just outright purchasing or looking at a lease program for police vehicles until we can get our fleet up to where we need it. We clearly know we need more officers, but what good does it do to bring in new officers if we don't have vehicles to put them in?
But
So,
Walking
police,
beach.
we'll step on a couple of people's toes, and I'm sure you've already learned I really don't care. They drive them like tanks.
yes.
I've seen officers come by the market basket, and I promise you, they're going so fast that it comes off of the road this high. They drive down Highway 90, you're standing fixing to go into Brookshire Brothers, and they're going so fast that all you hear is shoo. They have to obey the law just like the rest of
Well, and
us.
I think a lot of that is one of the things that we've talked about with this council is that we're trying to recreate the culture within the city of Brookshire, and we deserve much more credit than we give ourselves. So by raising the bar, raising the caliber of those that we hire and we employ in the city of Brookshire, we're hoping a byproduct of that is having officers who take care of their vehicles, who take care of their uniforms, who take care of their equipment. So it's all in a conducive plan, that we're trying to push forward. And like I said, there are going to be growing pains, But if we don't raise the bar for what our expectations are as a city and as a council, nobody else is going to do it for us. So I will be coming to council with the request to purchase more than the approved. We previously approved 2 vehicles. I will be coming with a potential fleet program plan for us that I think can get us into the fleet that we need at a much smaller price point. And so I'm working until I have some of those logistics worked out. Just let y'all know I am working on that. So I am looking at a potential 6 new vehicles, which will put us at where we need to be for a healthy amount for when we do backfill on these open positions. We do have vehicles to put those officers in, because what good does it does no good for us to have officers if they're not on the street. And we have been in situations lately where, and Officer Rodriguez is here, he can attest to this, where we've had officers on duty and we don't have vehicles for them to be out doing, serving and protecting Brookshire. So I don't want to see us in that position for very much longer.
So, Mr. Mayor, I just because you're the subject matter expert on our police department and with the history, how did we come up with 12 officers as the required amount of police for the city?
You mean 21?
22, I'm sorry, 22.
Well,
It's just, it's a
Like a certain number per capita.
calculation to so many people.
It's a ratio
Oh,
calculation.
okay, that's a ratio
Certain
calculation.
number per
but
capita.
if you
Okay.
believe the past administration, we had, how many? 25?
No. We had-
No, he had 25 officers
Oh,
on the
I'm
street.
sorry, yeah, but that wasn't true,
We've never had 25 officers ever.
never.
Okay.
And that's not saying that we're going to completely backfill all these positions, but
Right.
Well,
what
absolutely,
good
I was
does
just
it-
wondering how we came to the number
Well,
of 22.
And it's like, what good does it do to have a plan to backfill if we haven't even budgeted for those? And so that was one glaring
Let alone
issue
the
when I looked
vehicles.
at that PD budget, was we're only budgeting for the people that we have right now, and we're not even paying them market pay.
Right.
So we have to get creative with how we are recruiting and what we are recruiting
I agree all that, yeah.
to rebuild this department. And that's really what we're doing. We're rebuilding this department from the ground up. So there is going to be some care and love that's put in PD over the next year and a half to bring that up to the caliber of department, officers, and equipment that we want it to be at.
Does that 22 include command staff?
Yes.
Yes. And I've sat here on council, and it come budget time, and the chief asked, I need 2 more officers in this year's budget. And we budget for them, but guess what? He hadn't even filled what he already had budgeted for much, and he sure didn't fill that.
Yeah.
Just past history.
Yeah.
We will grow better.
Ms. Ward, what's the plan to vet the legitimacy of these numbers? And the reason I ask is, like, there's $170,000 that were put into streets this year, according to this document.
Correct.
And I wish I could say we've spent $170,000 on streets, but I don't know where we spent $170,000 on streets.
I had that same question. I'm still working on what exactly that is.
Okay.
I don't know, to be quite
The
honest.
repetitive
Maybe it
filling of the
was like
holes on
this.
woods.
Manuring said they went and bought $170,000 worth of asphalt and put 2 tablespoons in each pothole.
And then on hotel motel, we have a salary on there.
I
Any idea why we would
don't know.
have a salary on hotel motel?
Don't know.
Just get Miss Ward some Tylenol and
Right.
let's not ask no more questions tonight.
Um, Okay, I guess that's my biggest
So
question.
I will
is how
say
do we
that,
backfill?
one thing on municipal courts, I've been working with Sherry, is that she can actually pull a revenue report for municipal courts, but again, about half of those revenues that come in, we have to turn around and pay out for different citations to the state. Those are federal fees.
Right.
So she was able to run a report, but about 45% of that is not true revenue to us. It's revenue that comes in, but then there's an outflow of that as well to pay additional organizations that go out. So Sherry is doing her part to shore up what she thinks is the right accounting measure for the revenues. And hopefully in our new software system, we'll be able to streamline that a little bit better. Because the system will be set up in fund accounting with consolidated cash. So what that means is that As the money comes in, it will, if it's something like a fee on the municipal court side that's paid out to the state or federal, it will automatically journal entry that in the program, so it doesn't reflect as true revenue for us. It consolidates it and then it flows it back out.
I think a lot of citizens, Ms. Ward, you can help me, say that a lot of citizens think because, we'll say a seatbelt ticket is $250.
We get a small portion of that.
A very small portion, and people are thinking because they're the police department's writing tickets
Right.
every day and your courtroom is filled up, that we're just making money hand over
Right.
fist, and that is not a true and
Justin,
correct.
Doesn't the state law say that a city cannot revenue more than 10%? Is it 10% on the citations? Yeah, there's a number, and so people like, yeah, I think it's 10%. A city cannot revenue more than 10% of their revenue based on police citations. And a lot of people say, oh, but they write me tickets all the time. But to your point, there's an allocation formula for all tickets that are written, and the city actually revenues such a small portion of that, it is very difficult to even get close to that 10% number.
Sure.
So I know Ms. Ward and I spoke briefly on this, but if you look like at the municipal courts, to the point you just made, if I'm a citizen or an average person looking at this, I would have no clue that part of the revenue we're bringing in is going right back
It's
out the
going out,
door. Because there's not an
Because it's not
expense line
consolidated.
item.
It's not what
Yeah.
we call consolidated cash.
Right.
Now, I will tell you, once we get this cleaned up and we get accurate numbers in here and we're budgeting correctly, one of the things that I will do is provide you with a monthly financial report, and what that will include is cash on hand as well as investments. So
Right.
one thing that I've discussed with you guys previously is that currently we have no investments set up for the money that the city has cash on hand. It's sitting in a 0% bearing account, where it could be sitting in a Cedars government style investment account that right now, this week, the rates could be anywhere from 6 to 7%. So if we're not spending that money, it's making money for us. So those are some measures that when we move to a new bank and we get the new system set up, the new financial system, those are things that I will provide you on a quarterly basis, the quarterly financial reports that will tell you exactly what the health of the city is with
Yep.
cash on hand and investments. And it will help you better understand where we are budget-wise with when PD comes to us and says, hey, something happened to one of our vehicles, I need to purchase the vehicle. Then we have an actual snapshot of what our reserve account looks like, because right now we're not even sure what that reserve account looks like.
At one time, we used to get these on a monthly basis, and it'd be the actual budget. Then it'd show us what we have spent and what is left in that, and it'd give us the
The
percentage of.
percentage,
And that's where we could say, dear court department, don't order any more copy paper because y'all are, $2,500 over budget on supplies. Or, Ms. Ward, I hate budget amendments. You just don't know how bad I dislike. So, they are used to, or I was part of, used to, we'll just write down this number in this, and it may be close and it may not be close, but this is what we're going to budget, because we can just do a budget amendment at the end of the year, and I don't like.
And I will tell you,
budget.
once we start doing more regular and accurate quarterly financial reports with the budget, we can come as a consent agenda item and say, if we do have to make a budget amendment, but, I mean, you'll see in here, like, under elections, we've budgeted $60,000. Unless you're having 6 elections in a year, which is impossible, we don't need to budget $60,000 for an election. I mean, most election contracts as interlocal agreements with the county, elections on the high side range about $8,000, not 60. So we try to get these numbers as close to accurate as we can. They're never 100% and they're never perfect, but close enough.
If it usually costs
Right.
$6,000 if you budget $10,000.
Correct.
Or Stephen
really,
said.
in those cases, budget adjustments aren't even needed because interdepartmentally, you're gonna go over in some line items and not in the others. So as long as the department levels out and you're within reasonable budget realm, you don't have to make a budget amendment. I mean,
Right.
budget amendments are for big, if a PD vehicle, something happens and we have to make a large budget, and that's what it's for. But we're at a point right now that on paper, we don't even know what that looks like. So on Public Works, one of the things that we're looking on Public Works that I think will save us some money is currently we're on a uniform. We use Centos for our uniforms, but we have our guys wearing fireproof, super thick, long sleeve uniforms. And they're some of the most expensive uniforms that Centos wears. And to be quite honest, our guys are pretty uncomfortable in them. And I don't know that they're really doing anything that requires fireproof material. They're not working in a plant. So we're looking at making some amendments and changes to that uniform contract that will save us some money. And then looking at in the summer months going to possibly a short sleeve shirt if they'd like that, or something that's more of a dry fit material that's a little bit more cost effective for the city. We will be making our final payment on the Gradall this year. That's $174,000. That was a 4-year term. On that note, we'll be paying that off this year. But in addition to that, we'll be purchasing an additional cabbed tractor. I have charged Public Works with going through the entire Public Works yard, and we have about 10 pieces of equipment that we can get rid of and sell. And one of the additions to the Public Works, a couple of additions to the Public Works, to their personnel is we would like to add a mechanic position to Public Works, and we would cost share 50% with Public Works, 50% with PD.
Yes.
So that we have an in-house person. We're going to start uniforming our fleet. Because PD has preference with Chevrolet and the Tahoes, we're going to be, all of the fleet vehicles that we purchase on the Public Works side are going to be Chevrolet, so that when we bring in a mechanic, we can save on parts and being able to utilize one brand across the board for all of our fleet. So we're adding a mechanic position. Like I said, that will be split 50-50 between Public Works and police. But then also, we have 4 positions in our Public Works department that, I'll just say it, are grossly underpaid. They're not even marginally
Yes, ma'am.
competitive with neighboring cities. I would probably never tell this to them directly, but they could walk down the road and make $15 more an hour at a neighboring city. We should know, and these are employees that have been on staff with us for anywhere from 10 to 18 years.
Yep.
And they are making less than $20 an hour.
Yep.
That's embarrassing. So in an effort to
But when
not
you
only,
look in each department at the department head, you can bet they're
Yes.
making,
there's a $40,000 swing.
yeah.
That should never be the case. So again, stabilizing the pay scale is a priority this year. So there are 4 positions that I will be bringing up to market, as close to market level that I can within reasonable restraint within the budget. And again, one of these positions, the individual has been with the city for 18 years. So I think that in an effort to retain good employees that do a great job, and out of appreciation, it's only fair that we do take that measure this year to bring them up to a reasonable pay rate.
Mayor Branch, how many times have you asked for that to already have been taken care of?
Several times.
We discussed it last year too.
And it,
So now we've got
Once
somebody to hold
again-
accountable to make sure it happens.
On the administration side, I am proposing a new position, and this actually might be a position I end up coming to y'all asking to be filled before budget time, but a part-time purchasing assistant, somebody that their sole job is taking the invoices and entering them into the system to make sure that they're being paid in a timely manner.
what a concept.
Right. And we do have several applications in, and I do know several people that are interested that do have experience in this and do have experience with both Encode and some with the new system FundView. But I think that's a minimal investment that the city can make to bring this purchasing process up to speed with where it needs to be with the city.
Well, I've heard it stated in council meeting a couple of times that we have employees that don't have enough work to do.
Correct.
So why would we hire another individual if we have employees that are currently they're not necessarily underperforming, but they're underutilized in their
Correct.
positions?
I think because we've employed employees for way too long that have not been doing their job. And again, it goes back to the conversation of the mayor is a part-time position. He can't be here every day, and it's not his job to babysit adults to do their job. But now that Miss Molina and I are here and we have, daily oversight over what's going on, we've definitely found some deficiencies in the positions of things that are not being done. And those will be addressed accordingly. And we know where we have fallen short, and we need to make those corrections going forward. And so in an effort to expedite catching up in this process and also setting some procedural boundaries going forward, I think that having somebody that's their sole dedication is to opening the invoices, coding them to the right departments, and getting them entered. That's the first step in making some of these corrections going forward.
And I think that you'll remember we tried to, or we did hire a city administrator to sort of babysit, and that worked out greatly. And I'll leave that alone.
So you said that you were going to bring this back to us next week. Is there another budget
Oh, is it
workshop
not?
day set?
Sorry, it's Erica
Thursday.
has Erica has it. Well, we had to make a couple of changes because of how we have to post for approving the budget and the tax rate, but you have the dates.
It will be, is that the 26th, Justin? 26th and the 28th.
What days are those?
Tuesday and Thursday.
So
That works for me. Thank you so much for.
So the state government code
Sure,
says that
yeah.
there's a specific process in which we have to adopt the budget before the tax rate, and has to be so many days in between, and we have to post in the newspaper, and that has to be posted for so many days before you can have a meeting. And so because we moved our budget year, and I came in 3 weeks ago, and I'm having to go through this, we are going to be down to the very last couple of days, but I want to make sure that what I present to you is as accurate as it can be. And today, it's not, for the reasons.
I guess my question for asking, my reason for asking that question is, are we going to have a special meeting at some point?
Yes. So
Okay.
both of those
And
actually
have
will
we-
Special meetings.
And do we
both
know
those will
what-
be special meetings.
Yes, because they fall
Because they
outside of
fall
our
outside
first
of
and
our
third.
regular.
Okay.
So the
Regular
26th
meeting.
and 28th.
So the
will be
26th and the
special.
28th would both be special meetings, or we can do everything on the 26th to cover the 28th as well?
You have to
do it
adopt tax
separately.
rate
Yes.
separately.
Separately.
Okay.
But
So I'll
to
send
be
it-
honest, those aren't they're really not discussion meetings. They're procedural meetings for you to come in. They should not last longer than 30 minutes.
Okay.
They should be quick. And tomorrow, Ms. Glover, when I give her the information that all kind of wrapped up at the end of the day, she'll send out a note to council and the mayor to let y'all know those meeting dates.
Great.
Does anybody have any major budget requests or questions?
Yes. We've already kind of discussed getting our pay scale up to where it needs to be. I know we're going to look at using the balance of ARPA funds towards streets, but we still need to kind of look above and beyond that to see what we can kick towards streets to try to get
Yes.
through, if possible, phase 1 and phase 2 of the current comp plan. So that would be two of my big priorities there. The other thing is, have you had a conversation with Public Works on, a year and a half ago, I was told by Mr. Kelly in a year he'd have all the ditches cut and shot to grade and all that stuff, and we're nowhere near that.
No.
Is there a way to expedite some of that? I know we got this big grant coming down, joint grant with the county, but can we help ourselves along in any way by adding employees, or what does that look like?
To be honest, in full transparency, if we wanted to expedite it, I would utilize some of the downfall grant money that's coming, and I would hire somebody who could come in and get it done in 30 days versus relying on our employees.
Okay.
to get that done. And to be fair, that's what grant money's, the
Sure.
grant money's there for.
Which grant are you referring?
Is this the nearly $1 million in grant money that we had set aside
There
that
is
we're
a
talking about?
CDBG that's coming out.
Mid-mod, but that's,
There's a different one from.
there is a different one,
Yes,
okay.
MITMOD is separate, and MITMOD
Yes.
is not a grant, MITMOD is an allocation, which
Right.
means we don't have to apply for it, it's already been allocated to us, but there is a CDBG that's another one that's opening up that's specifically for streets and drainage.
In the early spring, there was the Grant Works presenter came and mentioned that there was a nearly $900 and something thousand grant that was currently sitting in the bank, ready to be spent.
I-
And it was a use it or lose it grant that we were on
I
the
think that's
cusp
the
of.
MITMOD.
no, that was the ARPA funds.
Oh, ARPA, okay.
And
Oh, that's
so-
the ARPA fund. That's what you are talking about, using those funds for the
So,
street project.
well, yes, so we used a little bit under 200,000, I think, to upgrade the vehicles in the police
Right, I remember
cars,
that, yeah,
all
yeah,
that fun
yeah.
stuff. And then the balance we've discussed, kicking towards streets. The MITMOD, we're getting a direct allocation of 1.8 million, I think.
I think it's 1.2.
1.2 million, I think it is, yeah.
And the county's we're getting the lion's share of the county's allocation at around 8 million. And so for our portion, we're gonna have to cut First, Fourth, Stella, and Stallnick, regrade it towards, Stallnick.
Uh-huh.
And then for the county's portion, they're gonna come in,
Fourth is my corner where all the water
Yep.
already comes, Fourth
Right.
and Stallneck. And we go all the way up, and if you go cut, make us more.
well, what's gonna happen on the,
Worried about
yep.
all of the
So on the other side of Stallnick, or Stella? Stallnick.
Stallnick, yeah.
For the county's portion, they're gonna be doing a retention pond there.
Yes.
And it's gonna be a pretty sizable pond, and they're gonna try to offshed the water all the way over there. And so, according to their numbers, essentially 80% of our drainage issues will offset to that pond. And so it'll kind of help alleviate what we got going on there. Now this other one, I'm not totally aware of yet.
Yes, it just came out, so I'm doing some research on that one. But even with, even with the 700, I think it's 732 remaining that we have to spend from the ARPA, it might not be a bad idea to bid some of that out for contract work to get it done, because it appears to me that we're moving very slowly. I mean, we've
No,
paid.
we're not moving at all. And we were told, well, I don't have the equipment, and we got them the equipment. Then, well, we've got to keep the grass cut. Well, then we hire a lawn service that we're paying way more than we should for. But I did sort of start that because I was in hopes that we would cut ditches. And we have a $500,000 grade all that I doubt has very many hours on it.
Fair.
We thought that the little white, what do you call that? The little thing that they're using to dig ditches that I probably could dig with a
That little
tablespoon. Yeah, quicker than it does. That's why we bought the great all. So what was the point of buying the great all if we're going to go back to use what you said wasn't working for you in the first place? And now we've spent all of this
Right.
money on cutting grass to free you up, and
So
now
I,
we have
and I
nothing.
can tell you, I have asked for a full assessment of linear feet in drainage that has to be cut. I have not received that.
Or just put that on your desk for everyone.
It wasn't everything.
Oh, it wasn't.
Council's asked for that multiple times over the last year and a half, and we've never gotten anything.
And
so.
I'm defending our employees, but I'm not, in that at some point, you have to have a professionally do the job for some of these ditches. Because there is an exact grade and what we call positive flow that has to be cut. And I'm not certain that those measures are being met. So that's why it's my recommendation that we at least have somebody assist us in what's being done properly, how we need to handle it, what's the most cost-effective way to handle it going forward. You know,
Solely
because we
for
do
quick
need to utilize our staff if it's being done correctly and the positive grade is being cut and they know how it needs to be cut. So I think at some point we do need to have somebody assist us in what is the most cost-effective and efficient way to get that done.
I just
Because
want-
to Ms.
m-
Branch's
My,
point.
my reason again for asking that question is that I just want, we have a lot of grant money. We have received a large grant to put in sidewalks and ADA accessibility and lights out here on downtown 2 years ago. And I don't know that that money's ever been,
It's never came
processed
down,
and
I don't
spent
think.
and moved forward.
Like we
to-
never received it?
We've never received the money yet. Tony, they don't, I'm sorry, Mr. McAnally, just because you get approved for a grant, they don't write the check the next day. It takes,
No, I believe we do have those. We just recently got those funds. And I believe recently because contractor just did a draw on engineering.
I was gonna say, I thought the contractor presented us with the
Yeah.
plans of what it was gonna look like. This has
So-
been months ago,
Yeah,
though.
but it's been months, and so I just want to be sure that those get
Long
accounted
time.
for as we're doing the budget that we have.
we hadn't got the grant before he gave us that, correct?
I thought the way that it was presented was that the
That's
funds
that
were in
question.
discussion.
I know we've paid a contractor. I would assume we're not paying a contractor where we've not received funds. That's what I would assume.
Yes, ma'am.
If you don't have the grade to install it, our culverts that are in now, I'm sure they'll have to change, but is that gonna be a cost to each,
No, ma'am.
the city's gonna pick that up?
Well, it,
No, it's a county,
It's covered by the
It's
county
the county,
grant.
but yeah.
well, no, on this side, it would be the city side.
Right.
It's
Our-
covered in.
It's covered under the grant, our
Under the
direct
grant money.
allocation. But yes, they're still doing engineering to kind of figure out what that's gonna look like. But no, any of the improvements would be under this grant. Now, the city will pay a small match, for our portion. But no, as far as to you, the property owner, if they're gonna have to upgrade the culvert in order to address it, well, I know, trust me, I've been over there and looked at it several times. That would be part of the grant, to do that.
And you brought up culvert. That is one thing that I have talked with Mr. Kelly about, is revamping our culvert replacement program, because quite honestly, it's costing the city a lot of money, and we need to.
Miss Manurine and the Wilkins, in the past administration, they dug out the ditches. Our city ordinance calls for 24-inch culverts. Over there, there are 18-inch culverts. Me and Don Mobley stood out in the in the middle of the street, and I got a tape measure and showed him. It's no sense in us digging out these ditches if we don't replace the culvert.
With the appropriate
And
size.
it's-
Bottlenecks.
If you go down Kenny Street where I live, there's a 18-inch culvert, then you go to a 36-inch culvert, then you go back down to a 18-inch culvert, then you go to a 24. And if we don't, I'm not an engineer, if we don't have
That's
sense
right.
enough to at least, the more water that you move out, the faster you move it out because you have the same size culverts and you don't have a bottleneck, the less chance of flooding. I'm not saying that it will alleviate that side's flooding, but the mayor dug y'all's ditches out and left this much space under y'all's culvert, which only attracts mosquitoes, but he didn't replace any of y'all's culverts. So what was the purpose of digging your ditch? Everybody was happy about it, though.
They clean from where I drive in to the stall neck, and the water right there could go opposite flow and then go under to the big ditch. Or it turns, it goes down to depot, and when depot backs up, nobody believes me, but the water turns around and goes back to that hole by Miss Rosie Powell's house, and then goes across the street. But
Yep.
the county
No, we're in the middle of it.
Couldn't tell from looking at my
I
lawn.
mean, next
but,
week we have 4 days of rain chances.
And I will say, one of the things that I really have put a lot of emphasis on is reestablishing positive relationships with the county. And I've talked with Commissioner Beckendorf about re-engaging interlocal agreements with the county road and bridge and the city to have a cost share agreement to where we pay materials, they pay manpower. And interlocal agreements like that work if everybody understands how they work. We can't call them and say, we need you tomorrow and expect for them to be here tomorrow. There's a planning element that comes with that we can tell them we have projects A through C. Can you put them on the schedule? Can we plan for it within a reasonable amount of time? And there's a healthy relationship between us and the county and how that works. So I am working to try to reestablish those relationships so that they will work in our favor. And that, you know, that could help alleviate some of these issues. But back to Ms. Branch's point, yes, there's a real issue in how effective are we being with our drainage projects. And with the equipment that we have, most cities would be elated to have the equipment that we have. But we're not utilizing it in the correct manner with the manpower that we have.
So I have two other items that I'd like to be sure get considered. Number one is the events structure and what events we host as a city, and the use of hotel motel funds and as it relates to those events and to other events that we might like to support, which has been an ongoing issue of concern. As a matter of fact, I believe we're still currently under a freeze from spending any of those dollars. So I'd like to free those funds up again and be sure that we have those events budgeted for, et cetera, et cetera. And we also, we had never finished the convention center rental fee discussions. The last time was we decided to just use what was in existing for the party that was interested, and we would come back and revisit it. And I don't know if that's something we need to take care of before.
We probably do. I know that the one final element on that we were looking at was the cleaning fee.
Mhm.
And I will say that some of the previous events that have been held in there, cleaning
I get
or
it.
lack of.
I just want to be sure these things get brought up and,
Right.
and get consideration within the budgeting.
Mhm.
And if council needs to do anything, that we have those things taken care of.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, when I went in July 4th to do or July 2nd, I guess, to do the July 4th festival, I would have been embarrassed that we had rented that convention center to anyone, because we actually had to clean the tables and the chairs from a previous city event, and I was quite disgusted when I found trash from that event still in the restrooms. And somebody broke the door to the brand new bathroom door, and
Punched a hole in the wall.
things happen. I understand accidents happen, but nobody reported that.
And this was for a city event, not a private rental?
We haven't private rented it to anybody, so it had to be.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if we were doing it to anybody or not.
And it's just sad that
We can't take care of the
we
things
don't
that we
take
have.
care of our own stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you, if it wasn't for my family and two other people, the July 4th festival probably would not have happened, due to you walk in and think you're going to be able to start decorating and you have to spend an hour and a half cleaning. That's not very responsible.
No, and I'm not opposed at all to having some sort of a professional cleaning service that gets involved after these events, and that there's a fee that's charged for that, and et cetera, et cetera.
Seem reasonable.
I think so, yeah. I haven't called them, but yeah, I've been a little busy.
My only request from
Yes,
reviewing
ma'am.
it would be that whenever we do, I don't know if it's possible to have subcategories or things that are earmarked, so that we know. I mean, for example, under contractual services, $150,000 allocated to professional services.
Like,
But
what
what
is that?
exactly is
Correct.
that?
That is
I
a
believe that's a
question.
question that we asked a year and a half ago.
No, I agree, because I have the same questions, and to Mr. McAnally's point, there is an additional department that I am going to add in here, and it will cover special events. Something to the, I mean, and it's, don't hold this, as gospel, I mean, we can change it, but something, that is going to address kind of like a Brookshire cultural corporation where we house all of our events, and we can put it out and we can budget accordingly throughout the year, whether it's 4th of July, it's, some of the other events that we have. And then one of the things that we'll be adding this year is the Keep Brookshire Beautiful, which is an affiliate of Keep Texas Beautiful and Keep America Beautiful. There's a substantial amount of grant money that is available if we're an affiliate as a Keep Brookshire Beautiful organization. So we will be adding that, and it's a great way for community outreach to identify citizens that could assist in partaking in some of these activities that the city is undertaking with beautification and different sorts of cultural events. Community, as I've expressed to y'all before, community outreach is a big one for me. We do have the mayor and council budget to where we have you guys active and involved in the community, but it's also a great resource to identify key players in the community and get them involved in city government. So it works two ways. So by establishing, something of the liking of, Brookshire Cultural Corporation or something along those lines allows us to house a place for these events and these sub-organizations of the city to get more people involved in what we're doing. And quite honestly, it kind of falls in place with what we've been talking about, unifying a marketing plan, communication through social media. One follows after the other. It's a cohesive process.
The other item I noticed also is that according to this, we didn't have any money allocated for drug screening and testing. As we move forward with trying to raise the caliber for maybe like some of the employees that we hire, like hiring people with public works that have a CDL, you have to be subject to random drug testing for that.
Well,
on a
I
yearly
did talk to the
basis.
mayor about that last week. We are going to start across the board, and this is a question I need to talk to Justin about, what kind of policy is required, but citywide, administering random drug testing, whether it's through PD or just, even administrative staff. It's a great accountability measure to put in place, just, as we're raising the bar for the people that work here. It shouldn't be, if we're hiring the right people, it shouldn't be a
I
problem.
was subject to it as an educator, so there's no reason why our city government shouldn't be the same.
Right.
As part of that, also, we have had some discussions about physical testing or at least a checkup of people
Right.
before they're hired to ensure they can perform the job
Right.
functions.
We do that in PD. I know some cities do it on the public works side, and that's definitely something that we can look into and evaluate.
I
know
think
that's
all
been-
Public Works is doing right now, and correct me, Mr. Hill, if I'm wrong, it's just drug testing.
So I asked our Public Works Director, it was brought to my attention that he was wanting to let go a city staff or employee because he wasn't cutting it in his probationary period physically. And so I asked, did you do a full physical? And he said, well, we did a drug test. And I said, a drug test and a full physical for a in-motion position is different,
Right,
and
absolutely.
so I don't know that we are. He couldn't answer that question,
I
but
don't believe we are.
I don't know
think
why
so.
we would not.
But he did express interest in doing that, though, going forward.
Good.
Because I know there have been actually now a number of Public Works employees that have been let go before the end of their probationary period because they were not able to physically
Sure.
do the functions of the job, so.
That's
Yeah,
4 in a
it's
row.
demanding, for sure.
Well, and just the time spent in onboarding employees, like that's an expense to the city as well. It would behoove us to retain employees that we're hiring rather than have a high turnover rate.
Well, when the mayor tells you don't hire and you hire
Anyway,
what do you expect to get? And we've just became, we had no city secretary, we're not used to having a city manager. We've tried to, I think, heard everybody in the right direction, and everybody is going about it in their own way. And I'm not saying that it should be road and blood how things is done, but there should be some kind of guidelines or outlines.
Procedure.
might not be the same for the court department and city hall
Correct.
and the police department, but there should be some kind of guidelines.
Absolutely, I agree.
That
Oh,
is-
we could almost get out of here by 9 o'clock.
We do have an executive session item, but that's it. But that's all I have right now on budget. I will update you all accordingly via email. When I send this out, if you have any questions, you want to stop by to visit about it, please feel free to do that. And I will, in my best attempt, get this as close as I can to whatever information I'm able to pull.
We can move on now.
Yes.
No action.
Agenda item number 8, executive session. The city council will meet in closed session pursuant to Title 5, Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code for the purpose of
You can go. I'll go ahead and start. You already know what I'm
council
talking
legal.
about.
I do. I know nothing.
Oh, I think this is yours. Sorry. I'll take
Did I shock you too, Mr.
I have learned not to be shocked. Disappointed. But not shocked.
But
Oh, man.
we'll have to let them in on the.
You ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
cue them in on that joke.
It is 9:35. We come back from, executive session. Item number 9, discussing possible action regarding, resulting in the executive session if needed.
None.
None? All in favor?
There's no action.
None? Oh, we're done. And the worst one.
Ms. Branch,
I
Number
make a
10.
motion, we adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye.